Oh, my battery must be dead.
Hey, we're live, Vin. Good morning to
No.
you. Yeah, we're live.
Oh, how did that happen?
We're leaving. You pushed the button. Did you forget?
Yes, I did. That's I got short-term memory loss here. Yes, we
As
are
one of
live.
as
Matter of
one of
fact.
my interviews told me once when I was interviewing bums at MacArthur Park, he said, "Please don't push the trigger." He thought someone was going to shoot him. He said he was telling me a
Oh,
story about being robbed in MacArthur Park, and his defense was, "Please don't push the trigger." And the guy didn't, so he lived to tell the story.
well, um, yeah, McArthur Park. Well, it's that's all going to go away because President Slapdick is going to fix that.
He's just going to have it turned into a permanent military outpost.
Well, he's figured out the way to fix everything. Just wish it away. I truly think that he thinks that he signs his name on the bottom of a piece of paper
It
and
happened.
it goes away.
But more and more now, especially when he's working with European leaders and members of our government that aren't afraid of him, he's just being caught as he lies every 5 seconds, as he lies his way through every single day in everything in situation, making up stories, making up numbers. I heard a number yesterday that it was frightening. I couldn't believe that it was been figured out already, but the American automotive industry has figured out that their losses for this year alone will be $5 billion thanks to Donald Trump. Now multiply that times all the other mismanagement and idiocy that happens like, for instance, in the FAA. Planes are catching on fire. Planes are flying into one another. Planes are landing when they shouldn't. Planes are taking off without permission. It's just an example of what's happened to an industry with no oversight. Now, multiply that by the problems with the automotive industry and the tariffs, and a $5 billion loss is something that's going to resonate through all the executives, all the union members, all the sales, all the dealerships, all the money transactions coast to coast that happen every year in the automotive industry for all brands, imports and otherwise. A $5 billion loss is not a small thing. It's a monstrous subtraction from the well-being of the full economic situation in the nation. Now multiply that by the FAA, by the FCC, by the Department of Education, by the Defense Department, who's got a budget that we don't even know about. God knows how they're spending it.
Well, we know how they're spending it. They're taking a plane that the I don't know who was it, Saudi Arabia gave us, or Qatar, or some country gave us a plane, and we're gonna turn it into Air Force One. That's the smartest idea.
We're going to turn it into a Trump Tower apartment.
We're now taking used planes and outfitting them to be Air Force One,
making them cost more than if they started from fresh and built a new plane.
Well, not only that, I mean, you still got to believe that, that there's got to be bugs in this plane. There's got to be, I mean, come on.
That plane's going down. That plane will not fly.
Well, I don't know if it's going to go down, but you certainly have to think that they're going to hear everything that goes on in that plane. That plane's never going to be secure.
My point being, each and every element of society is deteriorated and eroded through Donald Trump's insistence on destruction rather than maintenance and support. And the end result is going to be nothing that we count on to function, from FEMA to the FCC to the FAA to the medical oversight of the FTC. All that stuff is going to come to haunt us on the same day. It's all going to happen on one day where nothing works in America. And Donald Trump will blame President Obama and Joe Biden and whoever he wants to blame for that day. Roseanne will probably get blamed. The point being, we no longer function as a society. He's taken just enough pieces out and thrown them away, lied about the rest, ignored a great number of elements that he saw it happening, and he just let it go. The Secret Service won't work. The FBI won't work. Well, the Senate and the Congress already don't work.
What should have told you that this was the plan all along. I mean, you know, the way you get the people to get upset, and the way you get people on your side, the way you get people to look at it is to make sure it doesn't work. So you can come in and say, "Well, I can make it work." And if the people are, you know, gullible enough to believe you, you know, I mean, that was Hitler's plan. You know,
He had a good start because he had the Great International Depression on his side.
You know, and then come in and put a system in that works a little bit for them and a whole lot for you and your cronies.
Why are we in trouble? Because Europe hates us and the Jews are here. That's why we're in trouble. We just
you know we're in trouble. You know, look, the automotive industry doesn't know what it's doing, so let's denigrate electric cars.
Stop making them. That's the best thing.
Let's make electric cars seem like you know, a vile, horrible thing, instead of the good thing that it could have been. And what's more is let's keep these corporate people under control by saying,
look at the money you lost.
You go along with us, and we'll make sure that you can build the kind of engines that you want to build, the kind of cars that you want to build. Which you
won't have Negroes winning the 500.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, it's all so ridiculous because it's at every level of our society. It's everywhere. And
look at the baseball season we're having. I'm sure the Giants somehow have a problem that can be traced back to Donald Trump, which is why they can't beat the Mets in any circumstance.
Well,
you may think it's because we don't score runs, but I think there's something else going on. Why can't we score runs?
I'm not going to blame Donald Trump for the way Rafael Devers plays first base. I mean, I never thought I'd see anything worse than Dave Kingman until Saturday. That was the most atrocious performance I've seen by a major leaguer at a position in years.
Worse than Johnny LeMaster. Worse than Johnny LeMaster at shortstop and Dave Kingman at third.
So, I mean, that was a Kingman-esque performance in the field at first base. That was something that you look at and you grab your kid and you bring him in the living room and you say, I'm going to rewind this, take a look at this. If you ever do this on the field, I'll disown you. I mean, I know the guy doesn't want to be there. He doesn't want to play first base, but does he have to look the part?
The funny thing is he's a natural third baseman. That's how he came up.
Yeah.
We don't need a third baseman, but.
Well, it looks like you're going to need a general manager at some point, because I got to think that no matter who you are, if you make that deal and put the team on the hook for that much money,
all of it. He bought the whole contract.
Yeah, every dime of it. There's not an excuse. I mean, how do you get around? But you know, it's baseball. This is a place where Bill Bavasi was the general manager of a team for how many years, and virtually, you know, picked up every bad player he possibly could, and gave away some great players in the process of it. So, I know you like Buster Posey. I like Buster Posey, but
it ain't coming true.
You know, being a general manager is much more, and being a president of baseball operations is much more than than just having been a good player. It's a recognition of talent. It's a knowing what the situation is. Now, I'm not saying that the guy in New York is much better at the moment. I mean, Stearns, put this deal together for Soto, but the thing with Soto is he was a piece of candy that the owner wanted.
Well, he hit one yesterday.
That was the most George Steinbrenner-esque move that we've seen out of the Mets ever. And so I guess maybe you could excuse some of it. And at least I think that Soto's got upside to him.
And remember, when Soto went into the wind and became available, a lot of people wanted him.
Yeah. Yeah. No, he was getting bid on by the Yankees, and they were willing to toss around the money that he wanted, $787 million, I think it was. The Yankees were, I think, just $10 million short of that. But, and I don't know what it is with Soto that he's not getting into the groove. I mean, he's still got decent numbers. I mean, you'll still take him. If he wasn't making $787 million, everybody would be talking about him as the greatest thing since sliced bread. He'd be in Cal Raleigh territory. But
Cal Raleigh doesn't have the problems. He just doesn't. He comes without the baggage. He just gets up and hits the ball. He just plays every day and manages the pitching staff, and no belly aching. The quiet big dumper. It's
because there's no expectation. There was no expectation. We talked about this earlier in the year.
Hey, ESPN last night said that he would be a star if he wasn't playing in the Northwest. And the guy sitting next to him finally said he is a star.
Yeah.
Whether he plays in the Northwest or wherever he's playing, he's doing this. This isn't a theory that you're working on about what would happen if the leading home run hitter played for the Seattle Mariners. It was a funny exchange because the guy with the East Coast bias was saying maybe someday Cal Raleigh will be a star too. But right now, the guys that aren't playing as well as he is from the East Coast teams are more of interest to me. So I'm dismissing Cal Raleigh and his achievements.
Right. And to be fair, a star is like the Hall of Fame. You have to do it a certain amount of time consistently. Now, I don't think Cal Raleigh is having a fluke year. I think that he is punching over his weight. I don't know that he's consistently going to be this kind of player. I hope he is. And I hope that the Mariners reward this guy. Because to me, there's nothing sweeter than somebody you don't expect to be good. Whether it's a team, whether it's a player, whether it's whoever it is. But, I mean, I don't think anybody, like I said, including Cal Raleigh, expected him to be what he is.
They were discussing the ESPN guys. I happened to see ESPN because the Giants and Mets were on ESPN last night. Were going over the idea that Cal Raleigh had a lot of coaches that are famous for their comments to him. You're never going to catch in the major league level. You're going to do interesting. I want you to have a good game today. Go out, do your thing, but just understand, Cal, you're never going to go to the show. You're not going to be a major league catcher. We don't see it happening for you. Not one coach, but several coaches. And it's funny that a coach would go out of his way to try and blunt the talent of someone that you're working with right now. If you think somebody's not going to ever play second base in the majors, but he's playing second base for you today, what do you want to do? You want to tell him that he's never going to achieve his dream?
Well, yeah. See, and I think sometimes that's the idiocy of the ESPN guys who come in. And it happens with all of these network broadcasters. They come in, they don't know a team. They don't know at a ground level what's going on.
Who these guys really are.
And they have to say stuff. I mean, the worst offender of that was Alex Rodriguez. He had no idea what the fuck was going on.
He tried to played the part of the genuine insider who knew.
Right. He tried to be Ron Fairly, who was the guy that knew what was going on with his team. You know, he may not have known every other team, but he knew what was going on with his team. And, it showed. Alex couldn't pull it off. Probably, who was it? Edward, I forget his name, one of the commentators on ESPN, who I happen to like. But I've noticed, that this year they're a lot more with the mouth candy. They got to fill again. They commit the sins of every bad talk radio host in the country. They have to fill empty air, so they'll say anything. They'll say whatever
to paint themselves as the expert.
Right. When, and listen, I've done it. I mean, I've done it. I mean, you try to sound like you know what you're talking about a team. You read up, the local papers or something like that. But people know. People who follow the team know. If you follow this team, you know that the only coach that Cal Raleigh listened to about any of this stuff was his father.
His pop.
And his pop told him, you'll make it. You put in the hard work, and you put in, and you have the desire that people are going to see that. And somebody will give you a shot. Because you're good enough to make it. Right. You're good enough to get into the. I mean, you may not. Maybe I don't think you're ever going to be a Johnny Bench or a Gary Carter or a Yogi Berra. But you're better than Andy Etchebarren. You're better than Wes Westrom.
So pick
you're
the
better
title.
You're better than keep going down the list of catchers. You're certainly better than Charlie O'Brien. Or
Tom Haller.
Yeah. Go down the list again. You're probably better than Dan Wilson. And also, Cal Raleigh got into the right situation where he got a catcher as his manager who saw that this guy has the tools. This guy has what he needs to be good.
Was the only catcher to hit 40 home runs before the All-Star break ever.
Just in much the same way that Casey Stengel took Yogi Berra under his wing.
My man.
And turned him into, or helped turn him into, one of the top 5 catchers to ever play the game.
And played him at first and played him in the outfield. He kept him in the lineup. He needed him every day.
Right. He wanted him in there somewhere every day, which you hardly see anymore. I think the last time we saw that was it Dale Murphy?
Did he play all over the place?
Was a catcher, and then they played him at first base, played him in the outfield, and then eventually moved him to the outfield. It was easier on his body. But so I don't know. When I listen to, it's a good argument for what we always used to say at Cairo. Turn down the sound, turn up the radio. Listen to the local guys because they know the team.
Correct.
Now you suffer with that because the TV doesn't always match up to the radio.
Yeah, the ESPN delay is almost 10 seconds. It's a long delay. You can the MLB pitch count machine was going considerably faster than the game.
That's interesting because I would think that ESPN would purposely do that because the sound from, in New York, if you take, and you could take both broadcast teams. You could take Howie Rose and company on radio, or you could take Gary Cohen and Keith Hernandez and Ron Darling on television, and they're both far superior broadcasts than ESPN. So
sure.
I could see where people would, do exactly that. They'll turn up the radio and turn down the sound. So if you make it 10 seconds, then it gets a little hairy.
Doesn't match up.
6-second delay, it's a little behind, but you can live with it. But 10 seconds, you're in another inning.
Yeah.
So I could see where they would do that to keep people listening to ESPN. And again, I don't who was John Miller wasn't doing the game for ESPN, was he?
No, he's just with the Giants now.
Yeah, because I listened to it partly on
Carl Ravitch and Buster Olney, and I don't know.
Yeah, Buster I like. Buster's okay. Carl's okay. They're not great. They're well, Buster is a baseball guy, obviously, but Carl's a baseball guy, but he's also one of these guys who have to do like 6 different sports.
Mm-hmm.
So he just doesn't live the everyday life. You see, the everyday life guys, the guys who are the announcers for the teams, live the team every day. They ride on the bus. They stay in the same hotels. They talk to the players all the time. They go in the clubhouse and have coffee with them before the regular media can get in. They're living with the team. They know what happened. They've been on the bus. They talk to people. People trust them. They sit in the dugout. They talk to them because it was that way when I was working with the Mariners. I didn't get access to the clubhouse beforehand, but most of the other stuff, going on the bus and sitting in the dugout, talking to players and stuff like that, you got that. And you knew the team intimately.
It's a very different type of access. It's a casual, but intimate.
And you see them every day. And you're part of the team.
It's a long season.
And it's a long season.
A lot of subtle things happen.
You're sitting in a hotel lobby in Chicago and Paul Abbott says, "Hey, I'm going to breakfast. You want to come?" Yeah. We'll walk down the block, go to some pancake joint that's a block away from the hotel and sit there having that breakfast with Paul Abbott. You're sitting in a hotel lobby in Baltimore, and all of a sudden Pat Gillett comes up to you. "Hey, anybody sitting here?" Because they want people to shoot the shit with too.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden Pat Gillett sits down and you're telling stories, and I'm listening to his stories because he's got much more interesting stories than I do.
Well, using that experience, tell me what's going on with the Giants today, a team that was supposed to be infused with power and inspiration and energy from the trade for Rafael Devers. Didn't happen. What self-accusations are going on? What are the players thinking about themselves and their season and their performance?
Well, I'll tell you what. I don't know, again, because I'm not there and I don't cover that team every day.
But just based on your past experience.
But based on, I think it's all of our experience. When you throw somebody into a mix, you take a chance. We've worked at radio stations where they brought somebody in to do afternoon drive or morning drive, and they're supposed to be the big man, and they're supposed to, shoot the ratings up. And boy, you got the show after his, and your ratings are going to go up. And
it just never happens.
The guy's a jerk. The guy comes in and he thinks he owns the station, and he alienates everybody and tries to put the make on all the secretaries and all the sales girls. And the next thing you know, everything, and the general manager doesn't want to say anything or do anything because he doesn't want to look like he made a bad move. Or she. right? So, you're stuck with this idiot.
And the
Now, I
general
don't know.
manager says, well, it was the program director that pulled the trigger on him. I just backed him up.
Yeah. Now I don't know if that's the case with Devers. I'm not there to know. He may be the nicest guy. He doesn't strike me as somebody who's going to come in and say, and talk to other guys and pat him on the back. And, he was really disgruntled in Boston. And when a player is disgruntled and they show it in that way,
stuff happens.
Generally, they don't. I mean, I remember Randy Johnson when, his last year here, when he was disgruntled. I mean, he tanked it. And I know revisionist history and people right now that Randy Johnson was a great Mariner. Well, I'm one of those people that when somebody tanks it, when somebody at their position doesn't go out there and give the fans their best most days, and everybody's got bad days, that's wrong. You're still getting paid.
It's still a game that you have to win.
Right. And it's incumbent upon you, if they're paying you, whether you like the guys that are on your team or not, whether you like the manager, to go out and play your best game. This whole hokum excuse about, Chuck Armstrong one time asked me how my dad was after he died.
He rubbed me the wrong way.
Chuck Armstrong, wasn't didn't sit there and say, boy, I'm going to get Randy when he comes in. I'm going to ask him how his dad. The guy made a mistake. But that was the excuse. That was the thing is why he wanted to leave the Mariners.
So Chuck Armstrong talked about his father as if he were still alive.
Right. So Chuck Armstrong, he asked him, he said he saw him in the lobby, and Chuck asked him how his father was. I guess his father had been sick. And that was the excuse. That was one of the lamest excuses I ever heard in my life. And everybody will scream that Randy is such a great player, and he was a great player. I'm not going to deny that he was a great pitcher. But he tanked it for this team for half a season. And it was only because they crafted a deal that I still can't believe they got what they got for him, because everybody in the league knew that Randy was unhappy and he wanted to get out, and the Mariners would have taken anything for him at that point. Certainly a lot less than they should have gotten for him. It's just lucky that I think it was Pat Gillick at the time, that Pat Gillick picked out, was able to know the Houston farm system good enough that he picked out 4 or 5 players, I forget, that the Mariners, that really came into their own shortly after they got here. I think it took them a year to kind of get it together, but
they had great potential.
They were here. Those players were a big part of what happened here in 2020, in 2001, 2001.
And Randy floundered around with like 3 teams before he found a real home.
Well, no, he went from Houston to the Diamondbacks. I think he won. And then the Diamondbacks won it in 2001. So he floundered when he was here. As a matter of fact, I forget the numbers, but he was something like 2-10 or 3-10 or 3-14 in his time here. As soon as he got to Houston, he was 7-2 or 8-3 down the stretch.
And he was a new factor in the National League.
Yeah. So anybody that wants to sell me the bill of goods that Randy Johnson, and I liked Randy. I mean, I would sit and talk with Randy in spring training about guitars and about cars and lots of stuff. And I still wish to this day I wish him no ill will or anything. But I just lose respect. Listen, I lost respect with Gary Sheffield because he would intentionally strike out because he wanted to get out of Florida.
You mean the Miami team that Ichiro had never heard of?
Yeah. There were players that did that, and I had no respect for players that did that. I had no respect for players that tanked it because they got dealt to a last place team or whatever happened, or they didn't like the manager, or they didn't like this, or they didn't like that. Jeff Cirillo was another one that was like that. He got traded over here, and he got into some kind of dust up with Lou Piniella, and he never was what he was in Colorado.
Someone should have given Cirillo advice. You're going to play for Lou Piniella. Do yourself a favor. Be his man. Be somebody that Lou can count on. Because if he thinks that you're a dog and he can't count on you when he needs you the most, he'll just never play you. You'll be watching a lot of baseball.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, that was what Cirillo thought, would get him out of Seattle. And I just I think that's sad. I think when somebody does that, you're given this wonderful gift of being able to play this game, to make the kind of money that you make playing this game, to have the kind of skills that were given you to play this game, to put on that uniform and to go out there every day and have people look at you and admire you.
Ask Cal Raleigh what it feels like, because he knows right now. He knows the joy of being a right-handed batter or a left-handed batter. It doesn't matter. He hits it 470 feet. You can't do that. I can't do that. And he can do it from either side of the plate. It's a remarkable talent. Ask him how it feels to play baseball.
Yeah, it's got to be the best feeling in the world. It's like being a rock star. But if there comes, and hopefully he'll always have that view that he is lucky, and there's a lot of guys in this game of baseball that realized how lucky they were. Guys that weren't great talents, that just knew that they were lucky. Their talent got them there, but they also knew that it took some luck to get to play in the major leagues. It took a lot. It wasn't just one thing. It took perseverance. It took all of the things that it takes. It takes a lot, man. You know that, Michael.
It takes time. And some people with talent aren't patient enough to put in the time.
Yeah, it's just like it's just like radio. If you got a morning show in a major market, or you got a show in a major market, for the most part, you didn't just walk in and get the show. You spent nights in working overnights at KTIM, or you spent overnights at KUSF, or you stocked records, or you ran for coffee, or you did a lot of things before you got that show. And you listened to people, and you gained talent, and you talked to people, and you watched what people did and how they did things. And you picked out what you thought was the best of that.
There was a disc jockey in Philadelphia named High Lit. He worked for WIBG. His routine was his limousine would pull up in front of the station, and he would get out, and his first record was playing. He gets out of the car, and his first record is already on and playing. So he's playing Paul Revere and the Raiders Kicks. So he walks into the building. What do we got on the air? Oh, yeah, that one. And he hits his show, because to be a top 40 DJ in those days, all you needed was your attitude and a microphone and a station, because you were playing the top 40 hits. There was nothing to prepare, probably, although the best guys did it anyway.
Yeah.
But I always thought, imagine being the guy on before High Lit. He got his first record playing and he's not in the building.
Well, you never left until you saw him.
Oh, no, that takes kind of confidence. You might have to, and nobody segued records in those days, so you had to get a jingle and another record ready to go.
Right. Right. The art of segueing records didn't come in until FM.
Right.
And yeah, it's so when you do something, I think it was DiMaggio that said, whether you pump gas, whether you're a garbage man, whatever you are in life, always do it the best, because there are people that are seeing you for the first time that day. And that's their impression of you. And if you make a bad impression, I'm paraphrasing you, of course, if you make a bad impression on somebody the first time they see you, you generally lost them.
Yeah.
You may hit 60 home runs that year, but you're still at, the first time I saw he had 60 home runs. I don't know how he did that. First time I saw him, he was, tanking it.
He was a putz.
So anyway, so I think that, if that's what Devers is doing, if he's now going through this stuff because he's not happy with the Giants, or he's not happy with the Red Sox, or he's not happy with this team, he's not happy with that, he's not happy with this, that. See, the problem is in baseball is if you can play, or if you can make people think that you can play, you're going to get a contract somewhere. You're gonna get a deal, and you'll get $1 million or $2 million or $3 million. They'll send you down to the minors.
You can be a team like the Mets that had trouble on the road this summer. They've had ups and downs. They've failed to perform when they needed to. They come to San Francisco and they get so well so quick. They sweep the Giants, and the Giants only led, out of the 3 games, they led for like 2 innings. And they couldn't hold the lead because their bullpen gave it up to power hitters for the Mets. In the first 2 games, they scored 1 run in each game. They never made a threat. In yesterday's game, they had 2 hits by the time they got to the 7th inning. They're not an offensive machine. You can't count on them to hit in situations. They do not move the runner over. They do not work the count. They swing at bad pitches. They chase balls out of the strike zone. And they present as a team that doesn't know what the hell they're doing. They don't present confidence, organization. They don't present them as a manager who's got his finger on the pulse of the team. They don't present as a rookie or a veteran who can lead the team. They present none of that. They don't bring anything to the ballpark that inspires the fan base, the team. That's the phrase you hate. That inspires the San Francisco Giants fans, or Lucille, or the Philly Fanatic, or any of the other mascots that came yesterday and sat quietly in their box because there was nothing to cheer about. It was just a non-performance, not in 1 game, but 3 in a row. And when the Mets play the Giants, there's always tons of Mets fans show up.
Right.
The ballpark is full. It was a sunny, beautiful weekend. Everything was in line for something. Give me something. And the Giants fans got nothing, 3 games in a row.
And it reverberates. And what's always sad, I mean, it's good, but I've never been a big fan of it, is the ballpark reverberates with "Let's Go Mets." And there's something about that when it happens on the road.
In your home.
And your home, I'm not going to say it's wrong, because these people showed up, they paid their money, they got their tickets. They can say what they want, right? But it always strikes you wrong or weird when you're in a ballpark and people are cheering for the other team. As a player, it must embarrass you, must make you feel this small. I can't imagine how cold it must make you feel.
And you can't blame this on Rafael Devers. Nobody was hitting. Nobody was putting it together. And when they had the lead, they couldn't hold it. They couldn't hold it for an inning. It was as uninspiring a performance over the weekend as you would imagine it could be. Giants had 3 games at home. They had a tough road trip before. It was their turn to shine, turn it around, make a move. The Dodgers weren't playing well. They had lost 10 in a row.
Yeah, they got beat up by the Phillies.
And they had nothing to show for it.
Oh, no, they didn't get – no, that's the Yankees. I'm sorry. I made a mistake. It's the Yankees that got beat up by the Phillies. And let me add something else. What's wrong with Bob Melvin?
He looks like he's not even interested or awake, or
he looks like he's mailing it in.
He's subconscious. He's been that way all year.
I mean, he looked when he was in San Diego, he looked animated. Certainly when he was in Oakland, he did a lot with a team that probably shouldn't have done anything. And yet they were a consistent playoff contender.
How about that rookie for the A's who hit 4 home runs? My God.
Kurtz, is it? Or
Kurtz.
Yeah. What do you hit? 4 home runs? I mean, he had the most prolific night of any player at any time. 4 home runs in the game.
And no doubt, they were no doubters, each one.
4 home runs in the game. I've actually seen 2 players hit. What was it now? 2 players hit 4 home runs in the same game.
Whoa.
Back to back. No, one hit 3, one hit 4. Excuse me.
But they were on the same team?
Same team.
Wow.
Followed each other in the lineup. And it was Brett Boone and Mike Cameron. And Cammy hit 4 home runs. Boone just missed the 4th, I believe.
Wow.
I mean, that was a pretty. I mean, just to see him hit the back-to-back once, but to see him hit the back-to-back 3 times was pretty awesome. It's up there with the things you'll never believe. That goes up there with 2 consecutive home runs, 2 consecutive batters hitting home runs that hit the same foul pole in the same place.
Did anybody make the A's an offer for Kurtz, do you think, before the trading deadline?
I'm sure they're making offers to the A's for everything they got. I'm sure that everybody's getting an offer on that team. Their inbox is,
And how is it, Vinnie, that with all the players that have gone through the A's organization every year, no matter what terrible things befall the owner and the future and the stadium and the opinion of the fans, they come up with kids like Kurtz. They come up with pitchers. They come up with a good infield. They come up with a remarkable team. They come up with a star outfielder. Where this talent that manages to land on the A's when nobody else wants them. Nobody told me about this kid Kurtz. Wait and see who this guy Kurtz. I don't care where he shows up. He's going to be a factor. He's going to be a monster. He's going to be somebody to deal with. Never heard of him before his 4 home run game. Now they talk about him every day.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, they have either through trades or drafting have probably, you could say, a pretty damn good scouting department.
They must.
You know, I mean, they sign good talent. They give up good talent because they can't hold on to them. But they always seem to have somebody, one or two people on the roster that are outstanding players, and that anybody would take on their team in a minute. My ex-wife is an A's fan, or was an A's fan. She's no longer an A's fan. She jumped the elephant when they left Oakland.
A lot of people did.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's more and more looking like, well, you got a combination of stuff going on there. And I had a laugh last week. As I guess it was at the All-Star game. Commissioner Twiddly D there was was talking about expansion, and he's talking about Oakland in the expansion. Now, you know, I know, she knows, he knows, we all know that there's no way in hell that Oakland is getting an expansion team. Ain't going to happen.
All you need is a stadium. Well, where the hell have you been for the last 10 years?
Yeah. They're not going to build a stadium in Oakland, or really, to be honest with you, if they're going to use any public money whatsoever, they shouldn't build a stadium. You want to come here and you want to build a stadium, well, you better come here, come correct with your checkbook. Because there's just no way that the city the city can't fund its police.
And it's not $1 million problem anymore. It's $1 billion problem.
Right. So this idea that's getting tossed around that Oakland should get an expansion franchise. Come on, give me a break.
They couldn't keep their football team. They couldn't keep their baseball team. They couldn't keep the Warriors, who played for ostensibly for Golden State, but they played in Oakland. They couldn't keep any of those facilities open.
It is an auxiliary city to San Francisco,
as St. Paul is to Minneapolis.
Yeah, it's just never gonna. It's never gonna have the cash. It's never gonna be a major league city. I hate to say it. Maybe at one time it was, but even in the heyday, it wasn't. Even in the 50s and the 60s, baseball's greatest time, many will argue, it still wasn't a major league city. It took until 1966, and it took an extraordinary deal to Charlie Finley to move the team to Oakland.
And he had a hot team.
Yeah, he had a hot team. They were just on the upswing, and people turned out the first few years. Matter of fact, they turned out a number of years. But once Oakland started going down the pipes, people were saying, "Hey, you know what? I don't want to go into Oakland to see a game and park my car and get it stripped, or get assault." All of a sudden, Oakland became a not such a great place to go. And now those problems that made it not such a great place makes it a horrible place to go.
Yeah.
If they have an event, they need scads of police and security to guard it. So it's sad, because I love two-team major league markets. I love them. I think it's a great thing. I think the teams, the places that do have that, and they're very few now. As a matter of fact, there's really only two left: Chicago and New York. I think it's a special thing.
Because you can't really include LA because Anaheim is so far.
Yeah, LA. Yeah, LA. Excuse me, I forgot. I wasn't thinking about LA.
Well,
but I'll give it to him. I'll give it to him. I'll give him as a two team market. But and it's great because you grow up differently in your baseball maturation. It's a totally different animal than if you grow up in a one-team market. Because not only do you root for your team, but you generally root against the other team.
Yeah.
And it's a different dynamic.
Well, I remember them asking Busty Poser last night. They did a long interview in the mid-game. Remember how much fun it was when you guys could win World Series? You won 3 World Series. Remember that? It wasn't that fun? It's not like that anymore, is it? What's the relationship with the fans and the team, the intensity in the stands, the fun and the excitement of that ballpark, which they built so an offensive team would have trouble at home. They built it just so that it would work against the home team instead of work for them. But remember how much fun it was when you guys could win anyway? When you could still put a team together and beat the other guy? Remember those days, Buster? Remember when you had a manager that was the leader, not just to follow along or causing people to say, what's wrong with Bob Melvin? Which is, they're calling for his head every day.
Yeah. A contending team should almost never have people saying what's wrong with XYZ. Now, unfortunately, they do. I mean, people are never happy. How many times did we go through the fire Lou Piniella thing here?
Every high-profile coach that Seattle had in any sport was always questioned.
So, people always want to get rid of it, especially in baseball, because he's the easiest guy to point the finger at. But, I mean, Bob Melvin truly looked
disenchanted. He looks removed.
He looked like, what did I do? Why did I come here? And then I turn around and I look at what's his name in Texas, Bruce, and I see a guy that's into the game. You know, he's standing up in the dugout. He looks like, I mean, he may not have the best pitcher out there. He may not have the best team out there, but he's going to push that team to get everything he wants out of them.
And I wondered why Bochy went to Texas. I wondered why he left the Giants, but he pulled the plug, walked on the old
right time. You know, sometimes guys just get, I mean, managers leave for a variety of reasons. But I always question when they're doing good and they leave. You know, I always question when Davey Johnson left the Mets. I always looked askance at managers that leave their teams when the team is a contender.
Probably managers had that relationship with the front office that we don't get to observe or calculate into his daily problems. It's a relationship that we can't appreciate without access to both sides. And the Giants have not had a professional front office for a long time. They have investors, not baseball men.
Well, yeah, that seems to be that seems to be the situation. That seems to be, I mean, and you just hit the nail on the head. They have investors instead of baseball men. Because baseball men, baseball people will take a chance. Baseball people will recognize talent.
Go with their gut.
Baseball people isn't listening to the marketing director. They're listening to who can put a team together to win, to be competitive, to get into the playoffs and excel in the playoffs so that you can get to the World Series. Investors are looking at, how do I run this as a business? And we have teams like that. We have a lot of teams that let's face it, these people bought these teams to make money. And lots of it.
And they intend to run them like they ran their business prior to baseball.
Right. And they may have run their business as well. But this is not a business that you run
right.
As an accountant. This is competition. Now, I know for some people they have to, for the Pittsburgh Pirates, I mean, Bob Nutting has to run that team as a business because he doesn't, I don't believe that he doesn't have, but he's not going to spend the money that he makes on that team for players. He's going to pay that. He's going to fund that, use that to fund his other businesses. He is in the entertainment business. He's not in the baseball business.
Go to the ballpark, have some fireworks and a hot dog.
Yeah. Steve Cohen with the Mets is in the baseball business. His reputation, he wants to be able to walk in to the New York Athletic Club every afternoon to have lunch, and people pat him on the back and say, "Hey, man, I love that new third baseman you picked up," or "I love that boom," or "I love that dude." His ego is such that he wants to get patted on the back and told that he's great because of his baseball team.
Coming out to the ballpark, come and see my team.
Come out to the ballpark, see my team, pay the money, pay me my money down, and come out and watch a game. Which guy is right and which guy is wrong? The problem is you have a league that welcomes both.
They're in the same division. Vinnie, I'm gonna have to climb in the car and go see Kailani right now.
Okay.
Everything's okay, but we had a good show. It just ran longer than I thought we would.
Yeah. I didn't even realize it's as late as it is. All right. See you Wednesday.
It'll be a wacky Wednesday, I promise you.
If the Lord's willing, the creek don't rise, man.
I don't know what Buster Posey's going to do, but at this point, a drastic move would not be unwelcome.
Well, he should hopefully come. He should hopefully have peace, love, and Manischewitz.
What a wine!
See you Wednesday, Mikey. Thank you all for listening as well.
Thank you. See you Wednesday, Ben.
Bye. See you Wednesday.